Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, the quarterback competition is about to take its next step. So let's take an in-depth look at everything you need to know about how the competition has gone so far. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, it's all QB battle, Spencer Rattler versus Tyler Shough. We'll talk about where each of these candidates needs to improve. We'll talk about the things they've already done that have impressed, highlighting their strengths. And we're going to start everything off with letting you know where the battle has gone so far, why it's all good for the New Orleans Saints, and who I would say is in the lead. We got all that coming up for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much. Whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets by winning your first $5 bet. Head over to FanDuel.com today to get started. The New Orleans Saints quarterback battle between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough is going exactly the way that the New Orleans Saints should have hoped that it would go so far throughout offseason programs. Training camp's on the way. That's going to be the real proving ground. But in terms of being able to focus down during OTAs and minicamp for Tyler Shough, rookie minicamp as well, where things lie right now is perfect for the New Orleans Saints. We've broken this down before, but basically neither quarterback has been left in the dust. Both of these quarterbacks are performing. Both quarterbacks are showing that they have their strengths. Both quarterbacks are showing where it is that they need to continue to improve. And so all of that leads to the New Orleans Saints getting the most active information that they could get up to this point. That's all good news for New Orleans. And it's great, too, that no one has blown the other one out of the water at this point, because goodness, that would have been kind of a worst case scenario for New Orleans. Like, you want the competition because the competition keeps making each of these guys better. The better that Spencer Rattler does, the better that Tyler Shough gets. The better that Tyler Shough does, the better that Spencer Rattler gets. And so you want these guys kind of going back and forth and scrapping a little bit all throughout this entire time. It's part of what a competition is. You're competing to win, but also you're competing and you're getting better as you're going through. And that's a great situation for the New Orleans Saints. I have made this comment before, and I will make it again to make sure that it's very clear about who I think is presently in the lead when it comes to the quarterback competition. But I do want to be very clear. When I say this, what I'm talking about is who I think is in the lead, not who I think the New Orleans Saints are absolutely going to choose come week one of the 2025 season, because those two things just can't be equated to one another right now. Anyone that's telling you that they believe and know exactly how the quarterback situation is going to go, they probably don't. They probably don't, with some small exceptions. And so we still have to see how this all goes for New Orleans through training camp. But if I had to pick a guy that was in the lead right now at threat of bodily harm, I would choose Spencer Rattler. Like, it just makes the most sense. He has the NFL experience. He's the one that has looked the strongest at the things that you have to do in order to be able to compete in the NFL. You need to be able to move the ball meticulously. You need to be able to make quick decisions in order to alleviate pressure. And you need to be able to deliver the ball on time and in rhythm. And that's kind of where Spencer Rattler has been. I don't want to get too far ahead on this because we're going to break it down a little bit more in the next part of the show. But his ability to take a snap, drop back, plant and deliver, like, that is something that you need to be able to do in the NFL. And we're seeing a little bit of a better version of that from Spencer Rattler right now than we've seen from Tyler Shough so far. And the reason why I highlight Tyler Shough so far is because Spencer Rattler has the edge when it comes to experience, but Tyler Shough is going to have the time to develop those skills. And if he can, then that's going to put him in a really good situation, already being Kellen Moore's guy when it comes to the draft selections and all these other things, to allow this competition to keep taking steps forward. The best case scenario for New Orleans is that every day of training camp, a different one of these guys is the winner. Spencer Rattler is the winner after day 1, but Tyler Shough's the winner after day 2. And Spencer Rattler is the winner after day 3, and Tyler Shough's the winner after day 4. And then whoever's got the ball last wins. Like, that's a great situation for New Orleans because it means that they're getting good quarterback play out of 2 young quarterbacks. One rookie, one second-year guy, both of them on rookie contracts, all of these other pieces. That's a good situation for New Orleans because you want these guys to continue to develop. And so while I do say that I would pick Spencer Rattler right now, that doesn't mean that the New Orleans Saints are going to, or that the New Orleans Saints even so much as believe that there is a front runner in the conversation right now. They might not be willing to agree with that because they want these guys to keep pursuing it, right? And the more you give over to one guy, the more the other guy starts to feel counted out, and then maybe you don't get the same level of performance and yada yada. And so you have to make sure that both of these guys absolutely feel like they are in the running for this job. And they are because they are, not because it's the convenient thing to do. So that's my thoughts on where the New Orleans Saints quarterback battle is right now, knowing that we haven't even gotten to the real proving grounds yet, which are going to be training camp and the preseason. What I want to look at next are the numbers through a combined tally of OTA reps and minicamp reps. Remember, these are all 9-on-7s and 7-on-7s, so just some context behind this. But as of right now, I have both quarterbacks with 60 total reps, 59 total passing attempts. So that includes each of these guys scrambling at one point to go and pick up yards when there was no receiver available or something like that. I have Spencer Rattler completing 45 of his 59 passing attempts for 6 or 7 touchdowns and 1 possible interception. Remember, that interception was the one that Jonas Sanker came up with, and I want to say the first day of mandatory minicamps. Yes, in which he skied up, grabbed it on a target that was trying to go over his head to Juwan Johnson, but Jonas Sanker had the moon boots on and jumped up and was able to get the pick. But then he either fumbled it or he didn't come down with it. And the referees, the officials that were in attendance were no help. And so it is one of those things. So a possible interception there. The reason why I quote Spencer Rattler with 6 or 7 touchdowns is because one of those touchdowns came in OTA day 9, which was the 3rd day of open OTAs for the New Orleans Saints. I'm opening up the recesses of my brain to get this one for you. Spencer Rattler throws to the left side of the field. Cedric Wilson Jr. catches it. They're about 5 yards out. He catches the ball with about 3 yards to go. It's a non-contact practice. Who's to say whether or not he would have run through the arms of a would-be tackler in that situation? So I'll give him 6 or 7 touchdowns. Tyler Shough, 42 of 59, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then a possible rushing touchdown as well. Also in those outdoor drills with no, 9-on-7, no interior defensive line, so on and so forth. So that's kind of where I have everything sketched out right now for where the New Orleans Saints are. I should also highlight Hunter Dekkers got 4 passing attempts. He completed 2 of those and threw a great touchdown, looking off a defender, getting a defender to bite into the flat, and then hitting another receiver open in the end zone. So excellent stuff there. So I've got Spencer Rattler, 45 of 59, Tyler Shough, 42 of 59. So we're talking about a division of 3 passes there. 6 or 7 touchdowns to 4 touchdowns, a division of 2 or 3 touchdowns, each with an interception or a possible interception, and then Tyler Shough with an additional rushing touchdown. So that's where everything stands right now. When I tell you this thing is close, it's really close. And so it's going to come down to the nuances that separate both of these players. And we're already starting to see a little bit of that in favor of both. So I want to get to the strengths right now, which have everything to do with pace and rhythm for Spencer Rattler, but touch and a big arm for Tyler Shough. Let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Man, postseasons are incredible, aren't they? The College World Series, NBA Finals, all the action, so much fun all throughout. Make sure that you're checking in with FanDuel because you can make sure that you don't miss any of those moments because you can get in on every bit of the action with FanDuel today. College World Series rolls along. You want to get in on that. There's a ton of odds, lines, and props that you can check out. You can even look further in advance if you want to. The New Orleans Saints, 5.5 is the win total for them. Think they'll win more than 5.5 games, 6 or more. I think that they'll win less, 5 or fewer, or really, 5 or fewer games. You can get into all of that over at FanDuel as well. And right now, new customers, it's a perfect time for you because new customers can get $200 in bonus bets by winning your first $5 bet over at FanDuel.com today. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, family. Both quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, have shown that they have core strengths that will allow them to be able to be successful in the NFL game if they can continue to improve in their improvement areas. I want to start off with their strengths to get started. And look, I'm highlighting Tyler Shough and I'm highlighting Spencer Rattler right now because those are the only two guys outside 100 accuracy for passes that we've watched throw in a pass so far. Jake Haener has not been able to throw a pass, dealing with that oblique injury. He's supposed to be good and set for training camp. I don't know how much opportunity he's really going to get to come out and battle for this position, however, right, as a starter. I think you got to split these reps for the guys that are most core in focus when it comes to this quarterback position and not throw reps somewhere else and all these other things. I think these are the two guys that the Saints need to be focusing on. Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shough continue to move on. That's how we're going to be looking at it for right now. If Jake Haener gets a larger chance and opportunity than anticipated, we'll absolutely be adding that to the conversation when we get to training camp. But right now, we haven't seen him throw a pass as he's dealing with an injury. So I'm going to focus on the two guys that we've watched. I'll start with Spencer Rattler here. The two things that I think that Spencer Rattler has done the best is that he operates with pace, a sense of urgency, and his rhythm has allowed him to be able to get the ball out quickly. Those are two things that I think are really important. And then those have ripple effects in other areas. So when I talk about pace, I'm not just talking about snap, drop back, pass. What I'm talking about is in the huddle, getting out of the huddle, getting to the line of scrimmage, getting the play, making adjustments, communicating at the line, getting the play started, getting through the play, and then getting back in the huddle and getting ready. I'm talking about the pace with which he operates throughout the entire operation, not just once the ball is snapped. And so for me, Spencer Rattler has really improved in that area. There were a lot of times last year during training camps where we saw Spencer Rattler go under center. And then when he went under center, or really not even just during training camp, go all the way back to go into the regular season as well, where they would go up to the line of scrimmage and then they would have to re-huddle. And so being able to alleviate that, get away from that, and then get into this more effective, we talked about and broke down like the improvements in Kellen Moore's play calling from a vocabulary standpoint, right? And how much easier it is, how much more digestible and retainable it is, and all these other things. Spencer Rattler is clearly benefiting from that, as is the rest of the team. So that's what I mean by pace. I think that he's getting into the huddle, getting everything communicated, getting out of the huddle, getting to the line of scrimmage. He's operating with a sense of urgency. And because of the sense of urgency with which he operates, everyone around him is operating with that same sense of urgency. All good signs. The next thing is the rhythm, right? The rhythm once he got into the game. And so for me, the big thing when it comes down to that is that same thing. Take the snap, drop back, 1, 2, 3, snap, deliver. That's got to be the big thing for him. Because look, the New Orleans Saints saw a number of sacks last season. Spencer Rattler appeared in 7 games, started 6, was sacked 22 times. And some of that was because the New Orleans Saints offensive line was dealing with injury and maybe was a little bit less effective. But there were times too, and Spencer Rattler will tell you this himself, that some of those sacks were because of, not being able to get the ball out on time or waiting for a play to develop and things like that. And so separation from the wide receivers and the passing targets has to be a big part of that conversation. Pass blocking has to be a part of that conversation. But the other piece to any sack is, did the quarterback get the ball out? And we also saw, and one of the things we talked about last year was sometimes it's better to throw the ball away, but we didn't see that a ton. So now you're wanting to see some improvement in some of those areas. But I will say that the first area we're already seeing improvement in is him getting the ball out quickly. And the fact that he's doing this operating just with the clock in his head is promising. Because remember, there's no pass rush. So no one's forcing him to get the ball out quickly. He could sit back there and scramble around and move and get out of the pocket and take his time and all this stuff, all he wants to, because ain't nobody coming for him. But instead, he's operating with that clock and he's getting into the rhythm and everything like that. And when I'm talking about the rhythm, what I'm talking about is, like I said, take the snap, do your drop back, get into your hitch, deliver the football. Not sit there, pat the ball, not sit there, hop around and all this other stuff. Hit, deliver. hit, deliver, hit, deliver. And he's doing a really, really good job of that in terms of his rhythm. So that's a couple of things that I think are standing out. Because of the rhythm, that helps with ball placement, that helps with accuracy, all these other things, because everything's operating on time. So the ball's where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. The ball's where it is, where a receiver is expecting it to be. The receiver is where he needs to be, when he needs to be there, all these other things. So operating on time, very, very important piece of the equation. Tyler Shough, on the other hand, I think is showing you two different things. I think he's showing you really good touch on his passes, and he's showing you that he can deliver the deep ball constantly. Spencer Rattler showing the deep ball too. I don't want to, not acknowledge that. But Tyler Shough's deep ball is something else. It is something else. This dude has a cannon for an arm, but it's not an unruly cannon. It's not an unpredictable cannon. It's one to where he gets his sights on where he wants that ball to be delivered, and he can get the ball there. And he can get it there in a hurry, or he can deliver with touch. And this is one of those things that we also saw that we have seen a lot of quarterbacks actually struggle with coming into the NFL. Everything's on a rope. Everything's a bullet pass. Everything's being gunned in. Everything's trying to, I got to fit it into this tight window and stuff like that, where sometimes you don't necessarily have to. Sometimes you want to be able to lob with a little bit of touch. Sometimes you need to split defenders, but not necessarily with speed, but with accuracy, by getting the ball over the top of a defender, knowing that you've got time before the over-the-top defender is able to close in, or even just throwing to somebody in the flats out of the backfield to where you're play faking a one side, turning around and just lofting one up or lobbing one up over to the other side. We see that Tyler Shough has multiple gears for his arm. And that is a major, major benefit in today's NFL and really in the NFL as a whole. And it's a really important thing to see in a young quarterback. We saw Jameis Winston struggle with that. We've seen Spencer Rattler struggle with that. We've seen Jake Haener struggle with that. We saw Taysom Hill struggle with that. We saw a lot of these quarterbacks that have been in and out for the New Orleans Saints since the retirement of Drew Brees struggle with exactly that thing, not having that second or third throw. And when I say that second or third throw, is that sometimes you want to be able to gun one in and you want to be able to get that bullet pass and fit something into a tight window. Sometimes you want to be able to get a ball out in front of a receiver and lead them to where they want to go, the spot throw. Other times, you want to just loft it up and get it where it needs to go comfortably for a receiver to be able to catch it with soft hands and then maybe turn upfield and go and pick up some yards. Or you just need to deliver it nicely for somebody to be able to go up and get it because you're trying to fit it in between these two defenders, not two closing defenders from either side, but you got to get it over the top of the linebacker and it's got to come down before the safety gets there. But you have the opportunity to loft it up and give that receiver the opportunity to make that catch and get down, make that catch, turn upfield, all these other things. I think that is where we have seen the most special moments so far for Tyler Shough, including, of course, that absolutely insane big arm downfield passing opportunity or talent that he has. So those are the things that I think are the strengths. For Spencer Rattler, it's all about timing, pace, rhythm. For Tyler Shough, it's all about the big arm, having multiple gears in that arm and having sort of that ability for even in how that impacts ball placement, things like that. Like these have ripple effects and other things as well. To me, those are the strengths for both of these quarterbacks. But where they both will need to improve and show improvement really kind of comes down to the same thing. And it's the one thing, unfortunately, that they haven't been able to practice so far, and that's managing themselves under pressure. Let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. The biggest place where both quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, will need to show improvement over the course of training camp and really might not get to really show until the preseason and certainly into the regular season is handling themselves under pressure. Both of these quarterbacks have struggled in this category. I'm going to keep the same rhythm that I've been doing. We'll start with Spencer Rattler and then we'll go to Tyler Shough. But Spencer Rattler, his completion percentage when kept clean last year was outstanding, 74.8% last season. Stronger in first halves than he was in second halves, typically with the one exception being that Washington Commanders game when he came in for just the second half. But that 74.8% when kept clean completion percentage dropped to 45.5% according to Next Gen Stats over at NFL Pro. And that shows you where the big drop off has been or was last year for Spencer Rattler. It's one of the reasons why I highlight the rhythm, right? The things that we were talking about in terms of dropping back, hitch, get the ball out, all these other things, not holding on to the football, getting sort of that timing and rhythm into his mind. Kellen Moore's offense is very much going to be about timing in the passing game. Everyone needs to be at a certain place at a certain time. The ball should be delivered at a certain point so that the player knows where, so on and so forth. So like that's going to be a part of alleviating that. But under pressure, Spencer Rattler really struggled. So that 45.5% completion percentage down from nearly 30 points, down from 74.8% is one big part of it. The other thing is that he was under pressure nearly 40% of the time, and that's just kind of unacceptable. So that's not just him, though, right? That was separation by pass catchers and route runners. That was, offensive line, protection, all these other things. But again, a three-headed monster when it comes to why pressures happen sometimes. That is on the quarterback, sometimes it's not on the quarterback, all that. So everyone can work towards trying to improve that 39.4% pressure rate that he faced last year. You're not going to find a lot of success for almost any young quarterback under that situation. But here's the thing. The pressure to sack ratio, he was pressured 104 times. He was sacked 22 times. That is a 21.1% pressure to sack ratio. Now, I want to be really clear about what that metric means, because you can be pressured by multiple players on the same play. This number and the way that Next Gen Stats seems to count their pressure numbers, it's about snaps under pressure more than it is about the amount of defensive pressures counted against the quarterback, right? Or counted when that quarterback was dropping back, not really against the quarterback, but all those other things. So I want to be clear that a guy being under pressure 104 times in a season, when you've only started you only appeared in 7 games, only started 6 games, not great. I mean, just looking at that alone, right? 104 snaps over the course of, let's just say 6 starts. That's 17 plays per game that you're under pressure. Not great, Bob. So you would like to see that change. But again, being under pressure and getting sacked, sometimes different things. And we can see that when we take a look at some of Tyler Shough's numbers, because he actually has a positive metric in that same kind of vein in terms of pressures versus the amount of times that he was actually sacked in terms of giving up sacks. And so some of that is, can you throw the football? Can you have the clarity of mind under pressure to get the ball out, throw the ball away, give a receiver a chance, get the ball to a running back on a check down, all those other things. So it's a presence of mind thing in some cases. In other cases, like it's just unblocked pressure coming off your blind side. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? So it can look a bunch of different ways. But the bottom line is being able to perform better under pressure is something that Spencer Rattler is going to have to do. And it's something that Tyler Shough is going to have to do as well. Let's go back to his time with Louisville. During his time with Louisville, his completion percentage dropped from being clean at 71%, over 71%, to 42.3% when under pressure. So the near identical 30% drop for both of these quarterbacks when kept clean versus being under pressure. And it's no mystery that when a quarterback is under pressure, typically speaking, their completion percentage drops. But it's not just about the completion percentage. It's how often you're sacked, how, does it lead to turnovers, all these other pieces. This is where Tyler Shough actually is interesting. He was sacked on only 3% of his dropbacks during his time at Louisville last year. 9.3% of the time was he sacked when under pressure. So throwing the football away, making some of those more veteran things. But there were some of these decisions where you go back and you watch his tape where he's throwing the ball away a little prematurely in some cases. And so it's just the management of pressure. We also saw some really ugly stuff on his tape when under pressure. We saw some really great stuff on his tape when under pressure as well. That's kind of the telltale story of Tyler Shough's collegiate experience that you don't want to see translate to the NFL of hot, cold, streaky, right? Which you'd like to see is a delivered level of consistency. And so that's going to be the other thing that both of these quarterbacks are going to have to prove. So they need to prove that they can operate under pressure. That's 100%. But they're also going to have to prove consistency. And I will say that both have been, in their own way and in their particular, that is what I just said. because I accidentally combined the words specific and particular. Particular. That is how these guys have shown that they can be consistent in their specific or particular or unique strengths, right? They've shown consistency across the things that we just highlighted that were strengths for them. So I have a little bit less concern about the consistency side of it. They've both proven to be pretty consistent. But what happens when there's a defensive line? What happens when there's an offensive line and you have to start picking through passing lanes? What happens when there are live bullets? What happens when you're going up against an unfamiliar opponent in live action? All of those things have the ability to change the entire course of this conversation. One guy could look great in practice, but then if they get out there and melt down against live competition, that's going to be telling. So we'll see where things go when it comes to that. Here's the last thing that I'll say that they need to prove. This isn't an improvement area. This is just the other thing that I feel that they need to improve in that, or that they'll need to prove, is managing the operation. Same thing that Kellen Moore has talked about from the very beginning. He's not talking about it because it's fun to talk about. He's talking about it because it's the truth. These quarterbacks could be set apart by how they run the operation. Get in and out of the huddle, make checks at the line of scrimmage. Are you making the right checks? Are you making the right calls? And are you executing the offense? That, above all else, is going to be what becomes most important for these quarterbacks. All right, coming up over the course of the weekend, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of other things, including who's going to lead the team in sacks, and we'll take a look at who's going to lead the team in rushing yards as well. So make sure you leave some of those thoughts and let me know what it is that you think for both of those pieces. We appreciate you very much, as always. Making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me and the show. If you see me, please say hi. Hey, if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you.